Good afternoon, everybody. The time is 1:30 p.m. I call the January 10th, 2024 meeting of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals to order. We have six members present of a 7-member board. If you feel your petition needs to be heard by a full board, please let the staff members know now. Do not wait till your petition is called, please. And we will table your petition until the next meeting when we have more board members in attendance. We will first ask for public comment from those sitting in the chambers, then call on the members attending remotely. If a member of the public attending remotely wishes to participate in the public comment portion of the meeting, they should indicate this by using the raise hand function in Zoom and/or by messaging the chat host function. Please clearly state your name and address for the record. Board members state your name when making a motion in a second. Lastly, please silence your cell phone so it does not disturb the meeting. Can we have roll call?
Mr. Byers?
Present.
Mr. Hawley?
Present.
Mr. Tavernier?
Here. Present.
Mr. Velman?
Here.
Mr. Ritzma?
Here.
Mr. Roush? Mr. Schaefer?
Here.
6 members present. Petition number 1, location. Oh, sorry.
This is the first meeting of the year, so we have to start with electing the officers, so we have someone to run the meeting. Do we have nominations for board president?
I nominate DJ Tavernier for board president.
Is there a second on that nomination?
Donnie Ritzma, second.
Okay, and then are there any other nominations for president? Okay, vice president, is there a nomination for vice president?
I nominate Bob Holly for vice president.
Is there a second for that nomination?
I'll second.
Any
Donnie
other,
Ritzma.
any other nominations for vice president? Okay, can we get a motion to vote DJ Tavernier as president and Bob Hawley as vice president for the BZA for 2024?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, DJ.
Yay, me.
Yay, you.
All right, petition number 1.
I would nominate you.
You want it?
Location 24400 Fillmore Road. Owner Guadalupe and Rosa Arevalo. Requested action, variance from section 154.070 sub C2D1A to allow for an 8-foot fence with open space equal to or less than 70% in solid masonry columns where a maximum height of 36 inches is permitted in the front yard north. Zoning R Single Family District County and C Commercial District County.
Shelley, could you? Good afternoon. This is Farial Sharif, Area Plan Commission staff. This petition was tabled at the previous meeting at a request for more information. To review, this is a split zone parcel, zoned C commercial in the front and R single family in the back. It is zoned subject to a final site plan from 1981. The building department red tagged a masonry fence being built on this property. The fence is on the front commercially zoned half of the property facing Fillmore Road. They are here to obtain a variance because our ordinance only allows 3-foot tall solid fences or 4-foot tall open fences in the front yard. Staff is recommending denial of the variance. All right, at the previous meeting, there was some discussion as to what the actual size of the fence is and what it will look like as a final product if the variance was approved. What you're seeing on this slide are the rough measurements I took. From this estimate, each pillar is roughly 7 foot tall on average. There are 13 pillars in total that are about 2 feet wide. Keep in mind that the petitioner has now provided us with a new site plan that has more accurate measurements than these. There are 2 drives on this lot, and the property owners are hoping to eventually add gates to those driveways. These are pictures of the surrounding area. And here is the final site plan from that 1981 rezoning. As I had mentioned, it was rezoned to allow for an existing tree nursery. The final site plan was never fully implemented, but it is still attached to the property. As mentioned at the last meeting, any modifications to the site that are approved, if approved through variances today, should also be tied to requiring a subsequent rezoning to remove the final site plan or a minor modification to the site plan. We did speak to the petitioner about this, and they stated they are not utilizing the commercial zoning on the property. They're just using it as a residence. So they were open to pursuing a rezoning to R single family after this hearing. If that was done, it would make the whole property residential rather than split zoned and would remove the final site plan. On the other hand, a minor modification is something we could approve administratively by just altering the final site plan to show the fence and other changes. It wouldn't need a public hearing, and the current zoning would remain. All right, going back to the current site plans. This site plan was included last month, showing the distance of the new fence from the road. There was a much smaller fence on the property previously that is shown on this picture. And here is the new site plan they provided. The petitioners are now proposing solid iron bars in the roughly 12-foot space between the brick pillars that you saw, and then those similar-looking driveway gates to be added at a later date at each driveway. On top of the pillars, they are proposing these solar lamps that would be 14.2 inches in height. So if we're measuring just based off this picture with a pillar that is 6 foot 7 inches and a lamp that is 14 inches tall, we would count the total fence height as 7 foot 9 inches. If we're following this site plan, the iron bars in between would be a little shorter than that total height. We did advertise this petition as 8 foot, so at any point the fence cannot exceed 8 foot if the variance were approved today. Just to remind the board, we are recommending denial of the variance though, and I'll quickly go over staff's reasoning. It comes down to the last two criteria. There are no other fences that are similar in this area, and this fence will be much more prominent than any previous fences. Thus, there could be an effect on the use and value of the area adjacent. Strict application would not result in practical difficulty. The property owners could build a shorter fence in the same spot that would provide a sense of privacy and security. And in addition, other parts of the property are already fenced, including an existing wooden fence that screens the yard. For these reasons, we are recommending denial of the variance and can take questions now.
I have a couple of clarifying questions.
Absolutely.
So in the ordinance, it reads a solid fence up to 3 foot, correct? Solid meaning solid wood, solid plastic, or solid brick as what is being constructed to the 3 foot height?
The language actually doesn't say solid. It says 70, what is it, 70? Less than 70% open space.
Okay, so it should be less than 70% open space, correct?
Yes, to be
No,
a
I'm sorry,
solid.
greater than, do we want it to be more open or more closed is our goal?
Well, I mean, right now as it's advertised or as we have it, we are saying it's a solid less than 70% open space.
Okay.
We didn't have the full plans at that point. If they want to construct, so by right, they could construct like a more open fence that would be 4 foot tall. And if they wanted to do it completely solid, it could be 3 foot tall.
Actually,
Yeah.
that was my clarifying
Yeah.
question. So except for the pillars, everything else is okay?
Yeah, it seems open,
Okay.
yes.
Do the lights technically count because they're on the pillar themselves or because? Or
Yeah, we would measure it as from the ground level to the very highest point.
Of
So we
whatever's
would-
on top.
Yes, we would include that lamp.
Understood, okay. And regardless of whether they changed, if you go back to the one that has the wrought iron openings in the middle, that still doesn't qualify because that's above the 4 foot level that we would have to keep restricted to as well,
That's
too.
correct.
'Cause this is
Even-
technically a front yard.
Yes,
Okay.
even with the iron bars, it seems to be taller than 4 foot.
Okay, and then just one last question
Yeah.
is, you said about the zoning, so because it's split zoning, either way, though, it would still require variance for this particular fence, regardless if it was the commercial zoning or the residential zoning?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? All right, is the petitioner present? Name and address if you got anything to add, and then you got 10 minutes.
Hi, good morning. This is Jennifer Arevalo at 24400 Fillmore Road here in South Bend, Indiana, 46619. Initially, this is just something we started as a family, so it's like my parents the final thing hadn't been brought up because we're kind of building it as we go. We kind of just went to Menards and saw that the fences that we are going to be placing in between the pillars, regardless if it is approved or not. If it is not approved, then we're just going to cut down to like the allowed height because it's already put there. But there has always been a meaning. It's never been meant to be like a wall between us and the rest of the world. It's just something that we want to like have something structurally solid so that we can have a sense of safety due to past extreme measures that have happened to us. Like we've had a lot of trespassers and we've had to call the police, and due to the zone where we're at, there's not a lot of lighting and it's not very safe. And we have lost family members due to murder inside of our homes. And we do own a business here in South Bend called Jenny's Bakery, and people know who we are, and so we do get a lot of people knocking at our doors, and there has been some burglary at our place of business, and so we've had to take extreme measures at home as well as like within our business, and so we have like ADT to help us feel safer. But we just feel like when people are passing by where we're at, there's a lot of ranchers and a lot of people who own like bigger animals, like such as us. We have horses, and they step onto our yard, and we don't mind that as much as the fact that we do mind when people come into our backyard to see our animals and to like see what we have. And since it is just a residential zone, it's our horses, it's our property, it's our sense of like self that we feel is being invaded. So we thought that perhaps maybe something more structurally sound, like the masonry pillars with like iron rod fences in between, which would still allow view into the property, but it would at the same time allow for us to feel like there's a stronger fence that separates us from the rest of the world, since obviously the one we have isn't holding up since we're still getting trespassers. And I mean, there have been past police reports filed, and it's just whether people are going to respect it or not. So we feel as if we were able to have like the automatic garage doors that opened and allowed us into the property, and having the fences be a little higher would keep out and discourage some of like the wildlife, because we do have deer and we do have dogs that come into the property as well. So it's just a sense of having us keep our peace of mind. Yes, it's probably something that is not very common in the area where we're located, but that's just because everybody has more wooden fences or wired fences. And for us, we just feel like those are just at this point not giving us the sense of safety, of being structurally sound, that we feel like people can cross through. Like our windows, if in the pictures back on the property, you could see that we have barred our windows to the point, even our doors, because we don't have that sense of safety. And that's what we're asking for, to be allowed to have a structure that provides us with a more structurally sound just barrier that like people have to cross over or have to think about more before they get into our property. And the solar lamps are included in the distance, but they were told to us that we couldn't not include them. So we were willing to do 7 feet and just like put the solar lamps a little lower. And if this is not approved, we can always just cut it down. We're always willing to call it down and then just go up with like iron fences or just do something that's more see-through. Like, I mean, we could just do what the rest of our neighbors are doing and have a fence that is wired and completely see-through. And that is just what the majority of the people are doing. But since we do want to add something that is a little bit more nicer and modern, adding the lights and adding the actually pretty iron fences. I don't know if you guys have gone to Menards, but they're actually pretty nice, pretty costly too. So this isn't going to be something that's going to be done all at once. It's going to be taking some time that we are going to be putting in ourselves, since we do have to find someone who can help us find out how we get these automatic garage door opener doors to be on both sides of the property. So it's going to be a DIY project that's probably going to be a year or two more in the making. It's just that since we were red tagged, we were not aware that we had to come out here and get a building permit, and we're still, even if this variance is approved, we're still going to have to go forward with the building permit as well. So we're actually finding out how we're supposed to proceed with these things, and so we're hoping that regardless if approved or not, we're really hoping that it is, but if it's not that, then we could still keep going forward, getting this rezoned into a residential area now too, since we were not even aware that it was a commercial zone. So it's been very interesting ride that we've been on as a family. So that's just kind of my little spiel.
Okay. You guys have any questions?
Not really a question. I appreciate your story about the safety factor. I feel everyone should feel safe in their own home, and I appreciate that fact. I'm gonna go the other side on the safety side of it is, while I see that the fence being built is at least 38 feet away, it's still pretty close to the road, and if there was a car that ever is to come off the road and hit that fence with as solid as is being the brick and all that, there's a safety aspect on that side in my mind as well too, if that was to happen. So, you know, it's not, I don't know how possible or feasible it is, but it's one of those things of thinking about the safety side on that side of it as well.
Yeah, and that's true, and we did bring that up, like when they told us that we needed a variance as well from the distance from the road, and we had originally applied. They actually refunded our money from that variance because we had asked for a variance from the distance of the road, and they said that apparently we weren't gonna go through with it, but I don't really understand the reasoning why, but we did even park our cars on the side, and a full car, like, that needs to be idly parked, maybe flat tire can fit there with still some, like, 1.5 foot maybe of give way to them to open doors without having to be fully on the road.
All right, yeah, so, okay.
I got a question for you. I'm assuming because of this picture here,
Yeah.
that you did not have it surveyed, and you're probably in the right of way because that phone pole's right next to the fence.
When surveyed, you mean did they come out and like do the lines on the ground?
Well, all I know is that the right of way isn't right against the phone pole.
Sorry, I just want to clarify one thing. So originally, when they came in from the building department, there was a question as to where the fence was, and if it was too close, that variance was determined to be not needed. And it does not seem to be in the right-of-way right now. It actually is further back than the previous fence was.
Right. But it's a much more stout fence than the current
That
fence
is
as well,
correct,
too,
yes.
so yes.
So I guess my question is, are you in the right of way or is it back from the right of way?
From what my understanding is at this point, but it's always subject to change because there might be new information that might be brought up, but we are not in the right of way. And also what I've noticed now that I'm more aware of the laws that are happening, more fences around our area actually have the light poles fenced in. So like my thing would be if ours is not directly inside of our fence line, then others who do have it in would have to change theirs, no?
And one other thing I will add is, I'm not too sure about that pole, but I know that.
It's isolated, I
Yeah,
think.
this buffer, that side, is actually owned by NDOT on the side there, so it could be on the NDOT.
I guess my question
Property.
is, was it surveyed or not?
I don't believe so, but we don't, it
So
doesn't,
it could
it
be-
doesn't seem that it's in the right of
Could be
way.
on a neighbor's property, as far as we know.
I mean, without a survey, I guess, but it doesn't seem that that's the case.
Is, how long is that fence?
You know how long it is?
Oh, which fence, I'm sorry?
The one where, oh, sorry.
I didn't see any dimensions, did you?
So this is,
You mean going east and west?
Towards the east or towards the west? Towards the west? We're still within our property line of towards the west. Because their mailbox is off towards the side. Because we have had our property be lined out for us before in the past.
Survey, that's what he's asking.
Surveyed,
If
yeah.
it's been surveyed previously.
It has been in the past because we do have a piece of land that isn't connected with our, with the lot. So, yes, would be my answer. Okay. So, no more questions?
When did you purchase this property?
Well over 15 years ago. My parents purchased it together.
At that time, it was, the front half and the back half were all in the mortgage, or did you finance it?
I'm pretty sure that they're already finished paying it off, but I'm pretty sure that they did finance it just because
I'm
of
surprised
the
that
way
they
that it happened.
wouldn't have called it to your attention that there was two different commercial, or, a commercial versus, but you didn't know that, huh?
My dad actually went out and bought this on a whim, and he did this on his own, and then my mom, she just kind of agreed to it without anything. So that's as far as I'm aware of on the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you've never had a business there?
No, we ourselves have not. We have had, like family functions and just us living there, and our horses that my dad just has as a hobby and that he also trains are there, but no commercial use of this property.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You guys got anything else?
I did, actually.
Go ahead.
It's not really much of a question, but it's more of maybe a comment or consideration. In terms of the lighting, there are other options you could consider versus putting the actual structures on top, which would then add to the overall height. You could consider sconces that are built within the pillars, or spotlights that are more landscape on the ground that will still add to your security lighting, but then not jeopardize the whole height restriction.
Yeah, it would still bring down the height to the majority of an average of like about 7 feet, because they're all, since the structure of the land isn't straight throughout, some are like 6.5, some are 7, some are above 7 feet, so that's why on average we're asking for an 8. Because even if we don't go through with the solar lamps on top, we could always put them on the side. There's a lot of like models that they sell out there, which is actually a really great point. And so we do have that into consideration. But I think that when we talked through with us, Farial and I, we just said that we were not going to change it. We were just going to say 8, just to be more structurally safe and give a little bit of leeway, since it is in total 7 feet and 9 inches, just to allow that little wiggle room in case.
Understand, yep.
I have another question. What, the pillars, did your dad or somebody in the family do the brickwork, or was this hired separately?
So the thing is, my dad and his best friend, he has like a landscaping and like other company, and him and some friends, they were just talking about it, and then they decided to start working because he came in the truck with some leftover stuff, and so they've got to work on it together. They first put like concrete cement, and I'm not very like acquainted to be able to answer the question, so it's more like they've been doing it within their spare time kind of thing.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Is there a fence around the entire property?
No, there is not like a full fence around the entire property, but there are separate fences that create a whole fence around the property.
So when the people are coming in, where are they coming from? In the rear of the property?
They're coming in through the front, because our gate through the front towards the second entrance between the single pillar and where the pole is, right after the mailbox towards the east side, they're coming in through that east entrance.
Are they
So
possibly
there
thinking
is
it's
another
a
door.
driveway to somebody else's house that they're looking for or something?
Possibly, we don't really know, and they don't really stay long enough for us to ask, because when we do come over, or like when we have affronted people and come up and confronted them, they say that they are coming looking for someone, or that they think that their friends' horses are stalled there, because apparently some people rent their stalls out to other people, but since ours is for just our use, we don't have renters, so we don't know why they're there.
All right, so the gates that you're gonna put on, they're gonna be on here within the next year or two?
Hopefully,
somewhere around
yes,
there?
and it will allow other people who do not have access to the remote controllers to be able to open up the property to get in there.
All right, and then, As far as the face-mounted lights, you're okay with doing a face mount instead of a surface mount? With
Yeah.
LED on top? All right.
I'm always willing to do just like even like he mentioned like a ground lighting too, since we do want to put like a flagpole, but we haven't continued constructing anything since we want to check out and make sure that we get this done first.
Do it closer to the house so you don't have to come back.
Yeah, we will.
All right.
Thank
You
you.
guys got anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. We'll open it up to the public now. Is there anybody who would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward. Seeing none. Any on Zoom? Seeing none. Is there anybody who would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward. Seeing none. Any on Zoom? Seeing none, public portion's closed. You guys got anything else?
I got a clarification from the staff. Excuse me. If the pillars are taken down to the same level as the base, is that base 3 feet high?
Let me look, give me one moment.
I'm sorry?
Let me look at what my measurements are.
And I guess along with that, if it is that permitted by right?
Yeah.
Or do we still get into the,
Yeah, if we were, yeah, so it's 2 feet 4 inches just to the base. So yes, that would be
Alright.
permitted by right.
and if they added steel bars that you can see through on top of that that didn't exceed 3 feet, then do we get into an issue with the 70%?
We might, yeah, as long as it's open, it could be 4 feet. It would be kind of a tricky one to calculate, I think,
Okay.
yeah.
That was not my intent.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, at that point, if you were adding, it seems like if you were to add iron on top of it, if you just kept the base, it wouldn't be, it would only be like a foot tall, really. And then the majority is still the brick. So we would probably count that as a solid and say 3 foot.
Does anything change if it was to be rezoned to residential?
Not really. Like, in regards to what?
So if we approved under the condition that things be dropped, on the condition that things be approved with the rezoning, like, can we frame it in the way that when it's rezoned, it's not from 3 feet, now it's 6 feet?
I believe the standard is the same for the residential and the commercial fences in the front yard. So it wouldn't change.
But if the commercial portion was successfully rezoned to residential, does not the height change from 3 feet to 6 feet at that point?
Not in the front yard.
Not in the front yard, not in the front
That's where I was
yard.
getting confused then. So
Yeah,
never mind.
no, it's fine. It's a little
But you
confusing.
can still put a stipulation on it that the front yard fence can't exceed 6 foot if you wanted to.
So if it were rezoned, it would remove the final site plan.
Right,
And then it would just make it all residential.
correct.
But it wouldn't affect that that standard of the front yard fence.
If we were to deny, does that then lengthen the rezoning process if they want to go that route?
Not necessarily.
If you deny it, they could still go forward with the rezoning, but they would have to comply with all of the zoning requirements. It wouldn't change that
It's still
aspect of
something that'd
it.
be to her benefit to get it rezoned to residential. So they've already verbally said that they were willing to agree to things to a bit more compliant. So to me, it almost sounds like, well, I hate to always deny things, it'd just be better just to deny it and let them.
On either side, correct.
But that is not a motion, but talking out loud here, so.
Well, I mean,
Understood.
You know where I'm going with this, so.
I do know where you're going, and I sympathize with the safety factor,
As do I.
and it's not an ugly fence, right? My thought last month was a similar thought to yours, Joe, was that what happens on an icy road. Somebody loses control and smokes that, but same thing with a telephone pole, so.
Yeah,
if they're up and down the road.
even if it can be solid up to 3 feet, the car's still gonna hit something that's even at 3 foot realistically, right? So really it doesn't matter on that aspect of it. If what's allowed by the ordinance is still 3 foot and you have a car leave the road, it's still gonna hit that solid surface, right?
I remember, I don't remember how many years ago, in the areas, some of these areas, they were putting brick mailboxes, and they put a stop to it for a while, but I noticed they're doing it again, so, and that was the reason why.
Technically, there's still a stop to it, but,
They're doing it.
not everybody follows that. I mean, it's advertised at 8 foot. We could put a stipulation on it that the fence could not exceed 6 foot, correct? So,
Yes, you can amend the variance to make it more compliant with the zoning ordinance. You couldn't make it more lenient without re-advertising.
yeah. That would be my suggestion. This is suggestion.
Well, no, I was thinking that, or I was just the other extreme of like, well, what if we just denied it?
Right.
And because they already said they're willing to bring it down anyways if it's denied.
I'll take a motion.
I would make a
No.
motion that we, now if I amend it, do I have to say an amended variance to 6 foot?
Yeah, I mean, that wording would work.
I don't have a script yet, by the way. as well, too.
Just talk slow so I can write, will you?
That's why I'm asking what to do for you on this one. So I would make a motion to approve an amended variance to allow a maximum height of, so that, all right, need one more clarification. The height differences amongst the whole length of the wall, how do I state that? Because if there's an area that's lower, if you want uniformity across the tops of those, you can't say 6 foot from ground level. Can you say 6 foot from the highest post that there would be, or highest pillar that there would be? Would that make, is that enforceable?
That would, 6 foot, 6 foot. I mean, the way that I would look at that is 6 foot, 6 foot. So whether there's a hill in the yard where it's sitting, 6 foot, 6 foot.
Yeah, but we don't build other fences that height. I mean, if I have a rolling thing and I want the top of my fence to be even, I'm gonna build something that's maybe a little bit bigger than 6 foot, if you go all the way to the ground.
Right, no matter how you look at it, the fence panel is still 6 foot.
Yeah, but it may be 8 foot off the ground level to match the other 6 foot over here, though.
Can't be if you made it 6 foot.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is my dilemma.
6 foot would be the tallest one you could have.
I believe Fariel said they measure it from the bottom of the structure to the highest point on it.
That's
Is that right?
correct. Yes.
All right.
Just make it easy, Joe.
It's not easy, DJ.
Did you measure each one of these pillars, or did you just
I measured 2 of them.
do them? And did they vary?
Yes.
Yeah, so there is the ground.
Yes, I can attest that the ground is a little bit unlevel.
Thank you.
I will say there's the same number of bricks on each pillar, though.
I'm not gonna make you count bricks on there.
I
I
did.
already counted them.
I
There's
did.
29. Let's go.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve an amended variance to a maximum allowable of 6 foot fence with open space equal to or less than 70% and a solid masonry column where a maximum height of 36 inches is permitted as requested except 6 foot.
Sorry, we would also request that it would be subject to a subsequent rezoning or minor modification.
Subject to the rezoning of the property or a minor subdivision being.
Minor modification.
Minor modification. It's in the minutes. Shelley will get it.
I'm not repeating all that.
Sorry.
Joe,
What do you mean to do?
so as not to allow a solid 6 foot wall in the future, because if it's approved, it's approved. It's similar in character to the rendering presented.
And is representative of the rendering as provided by the petitioner.
Thank you.
Donnie Ritzmel, second.
Did you write all that down?
Sorry. You lost me.
Mr. Byers?
Did you have a second?
Yeah, Donnie
I'm trying to understand the motion.
So basically, the pillars need to be cut down to 6 foot above ground level.
All right?
Yep.
And then what happens above the base?
They get the wrought iron because it's less than 70%.
Okay. Yes,
Basically, it would look just like this, except at a maximum of 6 foot tall in the pillars.
Mr. Hawley?
First of all, I'd like to mention to the petitioner, I appreciate their efforts for security, but also they are beautifying the area. I've driven by it many times. And I have to say, around the corner, just around the corner, I think it's on Pine Road, you have some properties there that look like a junkyard. This property is well taken care of. My vote is yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Velman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, grants your variance with an amended height of 6 foot and everything else that Joe said.
That works. Subject to the
And,
conditions stated in the motion.
Yeah, and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you.
Petition number 2, location 56048 Pine Road. Owner, Marcus Villalaba. Requested action, variance from section 154.070 sub A3 to allow for the legalization of an accessory structure prior to the establishment of a primary use on the lot. Zoning R Single Family District, County.
All right, so with this being tabled from last month, is the petitioner present? Or on Zoom? They are not. So our two options are to table it one more time or dismiss it. And my suggestion is going to be,
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to dismiss the petition.
Bob Hawley, second that.
all right, so I can ask all in favor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so motion to dismiss, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. 3.
Location, 683 plus or minus acres on the north side of State Road 2, between Larison Boulevard and Willow Road, comprised of 56,000 Willow Road, 31,751 Fillmore Road, 31,443 Fillmore Road, 31,000 Fillmore Road, 31,333 Fillmore Road, 31,540 Fillmore Road, and 4 additional unaddressed parcels. Owner, General Motors, LLC. Requested action, variance from section 154.438 to allow loading docks to be located between the front lot line and the front facades of proposed industrial buildings. Zoning I Industrial District, IEC Overlay, County.
This is Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. So this variance proposal concerns the future GM battery plant in the Indiana Enterprise Center. What they are proposing to do is to locate their some of their off-street loading facilities in the front of the buildings, whereas the zoning ordinance requires that they are always behind the front facade of the building. Staff recommends approval of the variance. The buildings in question are going to be set back over 8 feet from the nearest public right-of-way. So therefore, accounting for the full size of the loading dock, they'll be 630 feet from these rights-of-way and in a location where they'll have virtually no impact on the public or on the surrounding area. So looking here, this is the entirety of the site. This is as close as you can get at the moment for safety reasons. As you can see here, the blue there, the proposed buildings, those are set back 800 feet from the State Road 2 right-of-way, and then the loading area would be in front of those buildings. Here's a close-up that shows it better. So the loading area is going to be between the parking lot and the building there. Turning to the state law criteria, staff finds that approval would not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare, because once again, the loading dock will be set back 630 feet from the right-of-way, where it will not really have any visual impact to the public. We find that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Again, the loading dock has a substantial setback. Additionally, it's going to be effectively screened by 3 different layers of landscaping that'll be required. The minimum front landscaping, along 2 parking area landscaping, and then some foundation landscaping as well. So it'll be screened heavily and also set back. And turning to strict application of the terms of this chapter, we do feel that the general zoning ordinance requirement that the loading docks cannot be located in front of the building would result in practical difficulties for large industrial sites like this that are providing substantial setbacks for the buildings. In this case, since the buildings are set back 800 feet, it would require the loading docks to be back even further than that from the front entrance. And we feel that in this case, it's not really serving any public benefit to allow this, or to require this additional setback. It's really kind of tailored more for smaller industrial developments or commercial developments where having loading in the front of the building can actually have some significant adverse impact on the character of the area. So for those reasons, we recommend approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks.
I have questions.
Sure.
I apologize. It's very tough to conceptualize this when, like you saw, where you can get to, and this is not a building. So this is only dealing with a truck dock that's going on the front of the manufacturing plant, it looks like, apparently. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it appears to be maybe 6 docks wide. Do we know how wide this is going to be?
I don't. The petitioner can definitely speak to that.
So we don't care about the truck dock going in the back of the admin building. Is that correct?
If anything in the back would be meeting the ordinance, correct.
And the entrance for these truck docks is not going to be coming off of State Road 2 based off of the drawings. Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
That's my understanding as well.
Okay, so it's going to be coming off Larison based off of what I envisioned.
That's what I've always heard, yep.
This, one of these site plans, where the hell is it at? Yeah, this site plan shows something coming off way off of the Larison side back to you.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. So there won't be any truck traffic coming back onto State Road 2 except at that unique area of State Road 2?
Yes.
Okay. What is, well, the petitioner, I just want to make sure I was understanding how the site plan was looking, so thanks.
Silly question, then why wouldn't the front of the building be classed as facing Larison?
Because yeah, so it's essentially a corner zoning lot, so one of them had to be treated as a front, whereas the other is treated as a side.
My guess would be is that probably posed more issues if they did that because of the parking and everything else there.
Well, yeah, well, I understand that, but I guess I just don't understand why the dock door is facing a non-frontage road, since it's, you're not using it as the front.
The petitioner might be able to answer that, I can't.
You guys got anything else? All right, thank you. Is the petitioner present? I'll need both your names if you're gonna talk, addresses, and then combined you have 10 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Board. My name is Jason Harris. I'm a design manager with General Motors. My address is 29755 Lewis Chevrolet Road, Warren, Michigan, 48093.
Frank Ray, Ghaffari Associates, 690 Speroff, Milford, Michigan, 48380. I'll be representing the architectural and engineering entities on the project.
Thank you for hearing our petition today. Before I explain anything further, would you want me to answer any of the questions that have been presented thus far?
However you want to do it.
Okay. So the manufacturing plant here is very unique in the sense of the interior process layout and the flow of materials in the production of battery cells. So we have gone through a lot of various planning exercises to right-size the facility, to respect the other boundary conditions of the property, as well as consideration for future growth of the site. So there's been a lot of refinement around space management of the facility. With that said, there is specific delivery points within the process that have to be in this location on the front side of the building. So we recognize this is unique, but we've also have tried to minimize that down. This specific location right now only has 4 dock doors. The vast majority of the other doors are around the other sides of the facility. The points that were mentioned before, we recognize the concerns with noise and eyesores. We feel that the setback addresses noise. We feel that layered landscaping will help address any aesthetics to make these docks virtually, insignificant in the grand scheme of the facility that those will be passing by. We do recognize the spirit of the IEC overlay district also had some general intent and provisions around a flagship facility, so there will potentially be architectural features of the building that, once again, will enhance the site and make the docks really a very minor visual consideration for the general public. Regarding the access to the site, as indicated, we have had very close relationships thus far with St. Joseph County and NDOT, and we avoided the entry drive off of State Road 2 out of safety to the general public and our employees, because NDOT would not warrant a signal at that entryway, so that's why we do not have a driveway coming off of State Road 2. And this is in concert with what the county's activities with other traffic improvements in the surrounding area, that Larison does present to be the safest route for both trucks and as well as employees coming into the site. I'm open for any other questions that the board may have.
How many total dock doors on each building will there be on the side facing State Road 2?
4 on the south face.
How many employees would be there at the facility?
Is there any bearing on the actual petition to that question? Because I do not have that data. If there's another way you can ask that, I could provide an answer specific to this request. In my role, I'm not able to speak to hiring strategies.
You mentioned the word employees,
Yes.
and I was just wondering how many daily employees would have to come to the facility to work there?
Yeah, approximately, we don't have the hiring plans, but the parking lot is sized for 1,600 spaces, so math would say we have about capacity for 700, 800 people per shift.
Thank you.
Yep.
So you brought up the signal that any egress access from State Road 2 is not going to be NDOT certified for a signal. Is there plans to put a signal in at Larison and State Road 2?
I would have to defer that question to Bill Shalio.
Okay.
If he could answer after we're done. There is plans, yes.
Okay.
And similar to the signal then, is Larison in itself designed to withhold the truck capacity and capabilities? So the structure of that road, does that need to be amended to then support truck traffic?
There is road improvement plans as well that go along with the development agreement.
Does he have anything to add? Do you have anything to add or anything you want to say?
The only thing that, both planning and Mr. Harris did a good job describing it, but the primary process is housed in two specific buildings, an east and a west, the main manufacturing and then an additional manufacturing. There's a specific relationship between those two buildings. The process is actually from west to east, one continuous flow of process. So we were very limited in between those buildings. Just take those docks and swing them to the east side of that first plant. So there's a specific relationship between the two buildings. So that we did look at a lot of different options, and the option of putting the docks on that corner on the front of the building was really the best solution to accommodate process. And with the other elements that we discussed, I think the only other point that was not mentioned was along State Road 2, there's some existing trees and vegetation that we're actually maintaining. So that's another layer of buffering and landscaping, in addition to the required ordinance landscaping.
Okay. You guys got anything else?
I have a site plan design question. Was there any consideration for, employees, as well maybe future connection to residents within the town of New Carlisle, but like pedestrian bicycle connections, connectivity, circulation throughout the site? So I know it's not stringent upon what we're here meeting on, but just overall consideration. Was there anything considered? So when employees are on lunch break, do they have like a walking path that they can walk by, that future connections would be made throughout the rest of the IEC or even further into like as you get into town limits?
So these are ongoing ideation concepts that are being discussed with St. Joseph County, obviously looking at the safety and security of a facility like this, as well as general public. But there will be moments where, bike paths along the perimeter of the site, between the road right-of-way and the site, are being conceptualized, which would benefit both the employees as well as the surrounding community. There is the ponds, which they shouldn't be blue, in my opinion, because these are detention ponds. These are not retention ponds. But
that's what sparked
they are bringing more of a natural environment than an agricultural piece of land. So to that point, they're not shown yet from a master planning standpoint, but walking trails for the employees would definitely be considered. I just don't know how we would address pedestrians traversing a highway safely to utilize these types of features, right? But if a bike path does come along Willow, for example, which is a much lower volume road, those types of ideas we're open to, continued collaboration with the county.
You guys good? All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll open this up to the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward.
Good afternoon, Bill Shalio, Economic Development Director with offices on the 7th and 11th floors as part of the Department of Infrastructure Planning and Growth. First, I come here asking for your support of this variance. This project is a very big project, very important to the county. We're excited to see it move forward. This request is based on the amount of variances a project like this could carry. The fact that we're asking for a variance for 4 dock doors on the front of the building is pretty insignificant. So we applaud GM and their team as they've looked at the ordinance and as they've worked through the ordinance to try to minimize the amount of variances needed. I would also note that this area does sit within the IEC development overlay area. Originally, about a year ago, there was a much more robust overlay proposed that was walked back after some concerns and comments. So this variance, if it would have happened with the original overlay being passed, wouldn't have been necessary at all. So this is one of these things as we look to continue to address the IAC development core overlay. This is something that would have not actually had to have been a variance. A couple of other things that came up just conversationally. Truck traffic will come in off of Larison. Improvements are being looked at State Road 2 in Larison. Probably some level of interchange will be built at that intersection. Still working to finalize the traffic study. A lot of work has been done to minimize the amount of direct traffic onto State Road 2 off of the intersection because it just is a complicated area through there with the hill coming down past Bendix Woods and just all the other traffic movement. A lot of conversation with GM as far as the potential to create these pedestrian pathway corridors off-site, so probably along the Willow Corridor. Also, as we look at some other projects in this area, how they would connect and then ultimately connect back into the town. As Mr. Harris mentioned, one of the biggest challenges is it would be great to get people to this area, but if they ultimately want to go to the park, how do you get them across State Road 2? And how do you get them across State Road 2 safely? So those are things that are being studied, and we're working on those kind of things. So a lot of great opportunities here. We ask for your support, and we appreciate that. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Bill.
Yep.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward.
Good afternoon, Dan Caruso, 305 Compton Street, New Carlisle. I'm in support of this, the way they're doing this. They're going through the right channels. I do, however, have one question that I just want to ask publicly about the screening, the screening along State Road 2. We used to call it the mitten. If you looked at it from the air, it looked like a mitten. The idea was that the GM was going to leave that mitten there and then get an offset on the required screening. For every tree that was left in the mitten, that'd be one less tree they'd have to put on the property somewhere for screening purposes. They've taken down almost the entire mitten. The only part of the mitten that still stands is right along State Road 2. So I just wonder, do they now have to put more trees in for screening since they took down most of the trees that were in the mitten? But I think this is good. This is a nice project. It's come along real well. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Any on Zoom? See none. Is there anybody that would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward. Any on Zoom? Seeing none, public portion is closed. You guys do have a 5-minute rebuttal if you'd like to answer the question that Dan asked, or anything else.
It does look like a mitten.
Once again, this is Jason Harris, General Motors. Very fair question, and something, and I don't say this lightly, it was near and dear to my heart looking at optimization of this site and trying to preserve as much of the existing vegetation as possible. As the program grew in terms of footprint and capacity, we became very space constrained. We know we have a strong requirement to protect the western boundary, as well as knowing that with the manufacturing facility, there are exterior equipment that we want to respect residential properties in terms of sight and noise and keeping space from there. We are constrained currently by the existing location of the Nisipani ditch. And then, you know, with the growth in the facility and growth in the parking, it became very apparent that preservation of the entire wooded area was not feasible. What we did realize is, although on an aerial imagery it does look to be like a very dense wooded area, the northern portion of the woods was very sparse, and the trees were not as mature growth as one might perceive. And there actually was a lot of debris and remnants from the prior owner that we had to clean up out of this woods. That was an unforeseen condition. So to the extent that we looked at a variety of ways to work around this, and it just became really not feasible. And when we're talking about a building that is over a half a mile long, a small pocket of trees there doesn't really provide beneficial screening, as well as the berm that we're building on the west boundary and filling in the entire south boundary with new screening planting. So yes, our intent would be to continue to strategize around replacement of trees and enhancement of screening beyond what that wooded area would have provided. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it says right here, just in the parking lot alone, there's 158 trees that are going in.
Yeah, and
Yeah, so there's a lot, I mean, there's a lot of landscape. going
just,
back, a lot of
and that's
trees
just the
going back.
parking, right? So I just wanted to make sure everybody appreciated, we've done our due diligence.
Anybody got anything? All right, thanks, sir. All right, you guys got anything else, or I'll take a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I mean, understanding how manufacturing and distribution works, it is critical on how doors are set up into a building to increase workflow and make sure that things are safe in a different manner, and in the best manner. Unfortunately, this petition, we don't control how they access Larison Road. That's more a county issue than anything else. So I do appreciate that there's no egress directly onto State Road 2. They're coming off Larison over on that side. Only being 4 dock doors there, it can't have that much traffic, not as much as probably if there's 700 employees coming there each shift. So I would make a motion to approve the variance as requested, subject to the conditions as laid out in the staff report.
Bob Hawley, I'll second that motion.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Byers?
Yes?
Mr. Velman?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, grants your variance and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you.
Petition number 4, location 59589 Grass Road. Owner Drew and Jessica Roush. Requested action, variance from section 154.070 sub C2A1 to allow a maximum detached accessory structure height of 24 feet where 22 feet would be required. Zoning R Single Family District, County.
Okay, good afternoon. This is Carl Brown Grimm, Area Plan Commission staff. The property owner is seeking relief from the maximum building height requirement for a detached accessory building to allow for a new pole building that will be able to accommodate the storage of a recreational vehicle. The property is located on Grass Road near the intersection of Ireland Road. This is the house on site. It has a garage attached by a breezeway in the rear that will remain. It also has a few detached accessory structures that are planned to be removed. The nearby neighborhood on Grass Road is agricultural in nature, especially when looking to the south and the west, which is where the proposed building will be located. Here you can see Grass Road looking south and looking north toward that Ireland Road intersection. This is a rendering of the proposed building. Note the large door in the middle of the structure is required to be at least 14 feet tall to accommodate a modern RV. This necessitates the structure being 24 feet in height. This is the original site plan submitted by the petitioner. The garage does meet the accessory area requirements as well as setback requirements for this district. Turning to our state law criteria, approval will not be injurious to the public. The primary building, the house on the property, will still be 12 feet taller than the proposed building, and the existing trees combined with the natural slope topography of the property will limit the impact the building will have on any neighboring properties. The use and value of the surrounding area will also not be affected. As you have seen, the surrounding area is agricultural in nature, and the size of this building is in character with that kind of area. Finally, staff does find there to be practical difficulties in this case. The strict application of the ordinance would prevent the petitioner from being able to store larger personal property items, such as recreational vehicles that are common with these types of properties, due to the height restriction. Staff does recommend approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Anybody got anything? No? All right. Is the petitioner present? Name and address in 10 minutes, if you got anything to add.
Thank you. Drew Roush, address 59589 Grass Road, Mishawaka, Indiana, 46544. Carl did a great job of explaining. That's pretty much the gist of the project. It would be a personal storage facility. There are a couple smaller accessory buildings already present that were, per my understanding, part of the original farm that dates back over 100 years. Those buildings are in pretty disrepair, not to mention a lot smaller. Equipment and personal property has grown a lot larger over the past 100 years. So those buildings would be tore down to make room for this building. Would make the property a lot more useful for, as Carl mentioned, it's personal property storage, hobby projects, things like that. That's pretty much it.
Okay. You guys got any questions?
Will you extend the driveway over to that entrance there with gravel, or how will you get the driveway over there?
Eventually, that would be the plan, yeah. It's not really first on the list, but it would end up being gravel, yeah.
And then is that the actual color of the buildings, going to be white versus the red of the house?
That's what we're thinking right now. The brick on the house is kind of a darker brick. We've been playing with some colors, my wife and I, and we've not really decided 100% yet, but that's where we're leaning.
And is that actually how the house will look after you build the barn?
If it were up to Google, yes. I hope not.
Tough to build.
Sorry.
You have electricity to the building. Will there be any other utilities in the building?
We're thinking that we'll run, at least run water to the building. If there would need to be a hose spigot or something like that, maybe for washing vehicles. And then natural gas for heat is also what I'm thinking. That won't be right off the bat, but eventually I'd like to have it at least roughed in.
Thank you.
I noticed the house is on a hill, and I take it that shed's gonna be actually shorter than the house when it's done.
Yeah, the foundation of the shed will be lower by grade by a few feet, because the house is on a hill here, correct? But the peak of the house at the top of those chimneys is almost 40 feet. From the grade of where the barn will be. So it's substantially taller than the new barn will be, yeah.
In the future, do you have any plans to add in living quarters?
That's not in the plans as of now, no.
Okay, thank you. We'll open this up to the public. Is there anybody who'd like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward. Any on Zoom? Is there anybody who would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward. Any on Zoom? Seeing none, public portion's closed. You guys got anything else, or I'll take a motion?
Well, in the petition, there's 2 variances requested, but there's only 1 posted.
Yeah, so he originally submitted for 2, but after, we weren't aware that they were taking down the old structures.
Okay.
So removing the structures allows them to have that amount of area.
Gotcha,
on them.
okay. So that calculation was done based off of not removing it, so now they are, so they
Right,
fall in line.
Right.
Perfect.
And we were in contact with them prior to advertising and refunded the money for that.
Okay, understood. That being said, beyond my thoughts and feelings on the structure appearance, I have no issue with a 2-foot variance that would be dramatically less than what the house is, and no one's going to be able to tell that 2 foot from the road. So I would make a motion to approve the variance as requested, subject to the special, or how do they say it? Sorry, lost it again. Subject to the following, the conditions posed by the staff in the report.
Tom Byers, second.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Veltman?
Yes.
Mr. Byers?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning and Appeals, after careful consideration, grants your variance and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you.
Petition number 5, location, address 32019 State Road 2 Highway. Owner, John R. Kaminsky. Requested action, variance from section 154.092 sub A to allow a lot area of 1 acre where a minimum of 20 acres is required for a lot in a 1 lot and 1 outlot subdivision. Zoning A agricultural district, county.
This is Sean Klein again, Area Plan Commission staff. So the petitioner would like to separate the existing single-family dwelling on this parcel here at the corner of Willow and State Road 2, separate it off with an acre from the remaining tilled portion of the property, which is about 3.3 acres. They would place this 3.3 acres in an unbuildable outlot. So staff recommends approval of the variance in that it would not allow for the creation of an additional residence in the agricultural district. Additionally, the proximity of the outlot to that larger 40-plus acre parcel to the west helps to ensure the ongoing agricultural use of this outlot. And actually, the petitioner expressed the desire to sell the outlot to that farmer who is currently tilling this property in question. The existing house. And then there's the field to the north of the home. And then here's the site plan. If the variance is approved, of course, it'll have to go through a minor subdivision, which will create the new lot and then the unbuildable outlot. Turning to the state law criteria, we find that approval would not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Once again, the acreage will be placed in an unbuildable outlot. Since it doesn't have adequate acreage to be converted into a lot by right, they would have to come back for another variance to attempt to do this. We find that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Once again, it would not allow an additional residential use in the agricultural district. And then turning to the strict application, strict application of the terms of this chapter would not allow the petitioner to separate the house from the tilled acreage, allowing them to be in separate ownership, which potentially increases the value of both portions. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
You guys got any questions? No? Wow. All right.
Good afternoon, Angela Smith with Dan Harner and Associates. Office is located at 1643 Commerce Drive. We're here on behalf of Mr. Kaminsky, who's looking to subdivide the property so that he can sell the outlot as stated by staff to the adjacent property owner to continue to farm that property. It's a common practice, as you guys all know, in the agricultural district to kind of split off the homestead and preserve the agriculture as is. The 1 acre would give them enough land to kind of pull off the home and have enough room for any potential septic issues that may come up and meet the requirements of the county health department. There is a small portion along the road that's currently not tilled. This would become part of Outlot A and allow for additional farming if they so choose. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we respectfully ask for your approval of the variances.
Nothing? Thank you. We'll open this up to the public. Is there anybody that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward. Any on Zoom? Is there anybody that would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward.
Good afternoon, Dan Caruso, 305 Compton Street, New Carlisle. I'm not so much against the idea of what Mr. Kaminsky once here. My thoughts are on to what can be connected with this, separating that 3.5 acres, almost 4 acres from the homestead and selling it to the family next door to farm and keep agricultural. But if you look at that map, the 42 acres right next door, you see all the stuff to the west of there, that's Mini Mountain Campground. That's a room for Mini Mountain. They're not going to farm that. They're going to expand Mini Mountain Campground into there, and possibly, I don't believe that's covered by the IEC overlay. I guess conceivably you'd put Kirk Concrete in there. It just opens up, because this then gives, coming across from Mini Mountain Campground, across the south end of those 40 acres, gives them access to Willow Road. All they have to do is put a road in from Mini Mountain Campground to Willow Road to the IEC. They don't have to deal with State Road 2. I don't disagree. That's a smart thing to do. Keep, especially if Kirk Concrete comes in, you wouldn't have to deal with concrete trucks on State Road 2. The workers who will be living at Mini Mountain Campground with their families and overburdening our schools with their children, causing some of the children who are in the transfer portal from South Bend to have to go elsewhere because our middle schools are at capacity. There's nowhere for any more students over there. I just think there needs to be some guarantees that 42 acres owned by the Zoll family is going to continue to be farmed for eternity, that there's no plans to run a road across the south end of there, across the back end of Mr. Kaminsky's property, out onto Willow Road to accommodate traffic from the campground and possibly from, say, Kirk Concrete, because I don't believe that area is covered by the IEC overlay where a concrete aggregate gravel, sand and gravel facility is permitted to come in by the overlay. I'm just concerned because as far as the campground, the possible campground, that'll be coming up later. As it came out at the Kirk Concrete thing you guys heard up on Tulip Road, that has been kicked back to the APC for a definition of temporary, what is meant by temporary. I discovered at that hearing that temporary is as long as the overall zoning of the property remains in effect. Say it's agriculturally zoned, you can get a variance and put in something like an industrial, like Kirk Concrete was going to do, and the question came up, well, how long can they stay there as a temporary, as a portable? And they said, well, as long as they need it, or until the owner of the whole property that's zoned that way applies to have it rezoned differently. Otherwise, you could be stuck with that concrete plant for eternity. I just think there needs to be some questions and some guarantees before we move forward with this. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Is there anybody else that would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward. Any on Zoom? Seeing none, public portion's now closed. Angela?
Again, Angela Smith. To address the guarantee is the fact that the other 3 plus or minus acres would be zoned as or subdivided as an outlot, which means non-buildable, non-developable lot. It would be restricted to the A agricultural uses. Any change in that, even to allow for a driveway, which is considered a structure under the ordinance, would require them to come back before the board and get another variance and take that out of being an outlot. So the guarantee is in the subdivision process itself. It's built into that by the granting and request of the variance and us designating that as an outlot. That lot cannot be developed without additional approval and public hearing.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Well, I trust what the petitioner's asked, but I'm also going to verify those staff that what she says is true, so she can say what she wants.
Good. guys got anything else?
I have nothing else for you.
No, that was my question, and she answered it very well.
Thanks, Angela.
For clarification, that is correct.
That is
If they even
correct.
tried to put a driveway in, they'd have to come back and figure out and ask for something.
Short of just farm vehicle access, anything beyond that, yes.
Got enough farm vehicle access. Because I also have a question based off of this here. It looks like there's also another egress somewhere.
That's correct. That parcel already has frontage on Willow, correct. And I will say, if there ever are any plans to expand the campground onto that parcel, they would have to get a special use in order to do so, and we would have to approve access at that time.
So there are mechanisms in place for them to have to be able to, if they want to do anything other than farm it, I shouldn't say it that way. If they wanted to expand the not trailer park.
If they wanted to expand the campground onto that
or
parcel in
put-
question.
Create an accessibility for something to happen on that property, they would have to come back to somebody to get that approval,
Correct.
including a concrete plant.
A concrete plant would require a special use.
Okay. So anything that happens on outlot, what's being designated as outlot 1,
Well, the outlot, for the concrete plant on the outlot, they would have to get a variance and a special use.
okay.
If they were to put a concrete plant on the other parcel to the west, that would still require a special use from the county council.
So there's checks and balances still available for us.
Anything else, or I'll take a motion?
Bob Hawley, I would like to make a offer, a suggestion.
Buying it?
I got your attention. A motion to accept the item for State Road 2.
I would second that, Mr. Holly. With the other checks and balances built into place, that satisfies my needs based off of what the comments Mr. Caruso brought up, so.
Mr. Byers?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Velman?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, grant your variance and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you.
Petition number 6, location 55283 Apple Road. Owner Hoy and Angela Henry. Requested action, variance number 1 from section 154.070, sub 2AD, 2A, to allow a fence in the minimum side yard abutting a street east of a corner lot where an 8-foot setback is required. Variance number 2 from section 154.070, sub C2D4A, to allow a 8-foot tall fence with open space equal to or less than 70% in the minimum side yard abutting a street east of a corner lot where 6 foot is permitted. Zoning R Single Family District, County.
This is Farial Sharif, Area Plan Commission staff. The subject property here is on the corner of Apple Road and Star Avenue. The property owner was working on repairs to their fence when they were red tagged by the building department. Upon further investigation, the fence is over the required 6-foot maximum and is encroaching on the 8-foot side yard setback. The petitioner is seeking relief from both of these standards. The fence in question is facing Apple Road. Corner lots have 2 front yards. As some of this board may know, earlier this year, Area Plan amended the zoning ordinance so that it was easier to allow for 6-foot privacy fences to be permitted on corner lots in the R Single Family District. Property owners may now designate one of their fronts as a side yard and allow a taller fence. These fences on side yards must also not encroach on the required minimum side yard setback abutting a street, as they can't be located on the property line. So as in, they can't be located on the property line. In this case, the standard is an 8-foot side setback. This is the intersection of Star Road and Apple Road, or Star Avenue and Apple Road. I have an arrow pointing to the fence we're talking about. It screens the yard. And this is the fence that was red tagged. One thing I want to clarify now is that 8-foot-tall privacy fences have never been permitted on residential lots in the county following to the current zoning ordinance. Also, the building department did not begin to require permits for fences until April 2022. Previous to this, it was much harder to track compliance with the zoning ordinance. Here is another view of the fence and the home. Here is directly across the street. You can see this lot is close to those railroad tracks as well. This picture was provided to me by the petitioner. It is a previous fence that was in place before the repairs were made, and it was red tagged. It is shorter than the current one. Here is the site plan provided. The fence line in question is marked by the red dotted line. Staff is recommending approval of the first variance for the side yard setback due to the large right-of-way at Apple Road. However, staff is recommending denial of the second height variance. For the state law criteria, the property did previously have a fence at the same location. They're asking to keep it there. We don't find doing so would be injurious to the health, safety, or general welfare of the community. Use and value, if the first variance is approved, would not be affected in an adverse manner. Properties nearby also have fences that are close to the right-of-way, such as the one right across the street. Since the right-of-way at this location is particularly large, about 70 feet in total across Apple, it doesn't interfere with the clear side area requirements by keeping it there. However, for the fence height, staff does find the adjacent properties could be affected in an adverse manner if the height variance were approved. 8-foot-tall fences, solid fences are out of character for residential lots in the county, and there are not nearby properties with solid fences that are 8 foot tall. Finally, for practical difficulty, just to reiterate generally, property owners can build fences all the way up to their side yard property lines. However, on corner lots, they must meet the minimum side yard setback abutting a street. The partial intent of imposing a minimum side yard setback is so that these fences are not wholly visible from the street nor block the view of drivers. That's not the case here with regards to the location of the fence and having that larger right-of-way, so staff does find strict application would result in practical difficulties for the first variance. For that second height variance, though, updates to our zoning ordinance actually do allow them to have a higher fence than previously. So by right, they could keep a 6-foot-tall fence, which would still allow a sense of privacy and security. Thus, we recommend approval of the first variance and denial of the second for height. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is the petitioner present? Name and address, and you got 10 minutes.
My name is Hoy Henry. I live at 55283 Apple Road, Osceola, Indiana, 46561. This process started for me actually a couple of years ago. I've been on the property for about 23 years now. The original fence that was there ultimately blew over during the winter time. I'd had several broken posts. In the following spring, I was able to replace those posts and rehang my panels back on those. Then the following winter, which would have been last winter, I'd had several other posts break as well. At that point in time, I'd replaced those posts, and then because the original sections had fallen so many times, they were just really pretty beat up. When I reconstructed the fence, I had called and asked if kind of what I needed to do. At the time, 2 years ago, things were a lot different. I do all the work myself, and it's one of those ones that I have to just wait until I can afford it and do it and go from there. The majority of the new repaired fence was actually done before April 1st of this year, probably the first 100 and some feet of it. The secondary repairs at the corner that are done there were just finished up in November. At this time, the fence itself is not at 8 feet. I'm at 90 inches. I did cut them all down. I'm just requesting to sort of save face in my process. I have spoken with my neighbors that can visually see the fence from their place. They do appreciate the fence is there because across the street is the light industrial. We have a lot of noise with the quarry just past the building there, and then that building that used to be a fire station is now, I believe, like logistics warehousing. So we've got truck entrance back and forth there. So my house is right at the edge of the residential side. I opted for a slightly taller fence than it was, just for noise and just additional kind of separation.
So you said the height of the fence currently now that you've cut it down is what height?
So
70 inches?
So when I replaced it, the total height is 90 inches. So I had 8-foot pickets that were actually given to me at a very good deal. Well, I wanted to maintain the current height that I had and kept the tops level. So I've got some that's a little more, some that's a little less. I've got some gaps at the bottom of some areas that I can bring the grade up to close that portion off. But at my concrete driveway, from the driveway to the very, very top of the fence, I'm at almost 90 inches.
Thank you.
I can actually cut down the fence itself if necessary and get it down to just above 80 inches without totally deconstructing the top rail and putting it all back together at that point. I'd prefer not to, but whatever it is that you'd like me to do, I tried to reach out to my neighbors just to make sure it wasn't something that they had an issue with, and I could not get any information other than positive ones. They said it looks good, and it does keep the noise from my nearest neighbor on Star.
Who did you call 2 years ago?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Who did you call 2 years ago?
I actually spoke with someone at the zoning department when I'd called in. The gentleman I spoke with at the time said that for repairs, I did not have to have a permit to do so, and that as long as the structure was on the same line as it was, then it wouldn't be a problem. And that's what I had done. And then what made it a little messed up is that before I was totally complete with everything, I'd had more problems that I addressed as I went. So right now, the large opening is still there. I have the materials for that, but before I got red tagged, that wasn't complete, and so I've just stopped there and sort of waiting to see what to do. When I called in the 2 years ago is also when we had spoken of the front yard, side yard issue. I have an Apple Road address, but I'm trying to get everything pushed to the Star side. I have intent to put a attached garage at some point on that side. I have a driveway over there also, so that's kind of rotating everything around off of Apple to Star.
The issue that I have, though, is that an 8-foot fence has never been allowed for residential.
I do understand that now. My hope is because I am on the edge of that light commercial zone and then agricultural, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm hoping that because of the additional, it's not so much the privacy as it is the noise, because there's no neighbors there anywhere, the railroad tracks.
That fence that's across the street, is that a 7'6"?
That's almost 8 feet with the barbed wire on top. That was just finished probably 5 weeks ago. So they had just installed that fence. There was no fence there up until just a while back. But I believe it's 6 foot at the top rail, and then they've got barbed wire on top of that. There's like 4 strands, I think, 3 or 4 strands. Their fence, I've been told, is different because of the chain link versus the slatted privacy fence.
All right. But you could cut it down to that top runner at 80 inches.
Yeah, that is something that I could do without any like additional money to spend, and it's just my time. And I believe that I could do that and it would still look pretty good.
Okay. You guys got anything else? No?
I vote
All
petitioner.
right, thanks, sir. We'll open this up to the public. Is there anybody who would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward. See none. Any on Zoom? See none. Anybody who would like to speak against this petition, please step forward. See none. Any on Zoom? See none. Public portion is now closed. You guys got anything else, or I'll take a motion?
Mr. Chairman, do we need to do these separately, or should we do them together?
If you want to do the same thing for both, there's no reason you can't do them together. If you want to do them separately, I would recommend separate votes.
Okay. So I would make a motion to approve variance number 1, the side setback as written with, with staff comments applicable as well to petition number 1, or variance number 1 only.
Donnie Ritzmond, second.
Mr. Byers?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Velman?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
All right, so then for the variance number 2, for the height variance, as the petitioner said, he could cut it down equitably and get it to the top rail at 80 inches. I would probably, because of, again, variances based off of one of the previous, that I had the variances that we had where height differences based off of variations in the landscape, I would make a motion to variance number 2 revise to 84 inches tall to give him a 4-inch grace.
He was taken to some level.
80 inches.
No. On the fence, he was picking a level that he was hitting either not the top of the post or something.
Yeah, the top rail is what
Right.
he says he's going to come
And
down
I'd
to.
just say the top rail.
Okay. Why didn't you make the petition?
Because you're doing a fine job.
Okay.
I would not recommend that wording. All it would take would be adding another rail onto the fence, and then you'd be able to keep going, however high he wanted to, if he just kept adding rails.
So
84 is an easy number.
you get lawyers involved and.
Yeah.
Then I would continue on. Then I would make a motion to approve variance number 2 to a height of 84 inches to give the petitioner a little bit of grace on where that's going to end up with his variation in his landscaping, subject to the staff comments in the report.
Donnie Ritzmond, second.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Byers?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Velman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Before I answer, right, I'm just gonna say, the building department is the person that you need to call for to get any of your specific answers on anything that's building related.
And in writing.
So, yes, so, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, grants variance number 1 and grants variance number 2 as revised to a height of 84 inches, and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you.
Variance, petition number 7. Address, location, 12550 Day Road, and unaddressed abutting parcel to the south. Owner, Feeney 2022 Joint Trust. Requested action, variance from section 154.107 sub B to allow lot width of 25 feet where 100 feet is required for lot 2 and lot 3 of a proposed 3-lot subdivision. Zoning R Single Family District, County.
This is Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. So the property in question here is this 1.2 acre parcel with frontage on Day Road that contains a single family home. And then to the south, there's this unusual shaped parcel. It does have frontage on Bittersweet Road. However, it's only 50 feet of road frontage on that western end. This parcel is actually the remnants of parts of an unapproved, unrecorded proposed subdivision. As it was never approved or recorded, the proposed streets that were shown within it, there was one going east-west and then up to the north. Those were never actually approved or dedicated as right-of-way or anything like that. So essentially it is just all one parcel. The only road frontage that it has is that Bittersweet Road frontage. What they are proposing to do is to create a three-lot subdivision. The lot one would be on the north. That would contain the existing home, and then the property line would be adjusted to the south to make sure that the accessory structure was actually on the parcel. And then to the south of that would be a new lot 2 and a new lot 3. The reason that they need the variance to do this is because since it's limited to that 50 foot of frontage on Bittersweet, the way that the zoning ordinance defines lot width, it needs to be measured within the first 30 feet of the lot behind the setback line. So in this case, the most narrow point between the setback line, which is 35 feet off the right-of-way, and then an additional 30 back. So in the case of this parcel, the only lot width that they have to work with is effectively 50 feet, even though it gets substantially wider as you get to the east. So they would need a variance just to create one additional buildable lot, because again, they can't meet that 100-foot lot width. In this case, the petitioner is proposing to reduce the lot width down to 25 feet to allow the creation of 2 buildable lots. Under the circumstances, staff thinks that that is reasonable because there is over 4 acres in the interior of this parcel that could otherwise not be developed. And this isn't an area that is desirable for additional housing, and the lot sizes that would be provided would be consistent with the neighboring area. Staff does think that there's practical difficulty in that development patterns in the area have left this parcel with very limited frontage, but a lot of acreage that could otherwise be used for 2 single-family homes. So we do recommend approval of the variance. This is the house as viewed from Day Road. And then this is from Bittersweet, where the 50 foot of frontage is. And then this is back on the parcel. Turning to the state law criteria, we find that the approval would not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. It's really not going to have any impact on morals or general welfare. In terms of public health, at the point where the homes will actually be constructed, there is more than adequate width to provide for a functioning septic system. And turning to public safety, although it's not necessarily ideal to have a reduced road frontage for 2 homes like this, because it could reduce the visibility for emergency vehicles, we think that could be mitigated through just simple addressing signs at the Bittersweet frontage. The use and value of the area adjacent would not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, as I said, this would just allow for the construction of 2 additional single-family homes, and the lots in question would be at a density which is consistent with the rest of the area. And turning to the strict application resulting in practical difficulty, we find that it would. Again, just given how the area is developed, that this was left over from a subdivision that was never approved. It's a lot of acreage that's left with limited road frontage, but is otherwise potentially suitable for development, and the overall suitability would come out during the subdivision process. And I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. Thank you.
I have questions. I'm shocked. Will the addresses be Day Road addresses or Bittersweet addresses?
Access will be from Bittersweet, so I'm assuming Bittersweet addresses.
not this staff, but previous staffs that I have been associated with, had a very robust attitude about houses behind houses behind houses, which this would actually put 3 deep on houses realistically, because there's already houses on Bittersweet, then you put another house behind it, and then you put another house behind that one.
Well, 2, I mean, the day one has access from day. It's in the front on day.
Right.
Yeah, so 2, right?
Well, I mean, lot
Are we on
two-
the same page?
Lot 2 would be behind 2 houses off day and another house off of that, but lot 3 would be behind, I guess, behind day itself, but the access would be off Bittersweet. I think that would be a little confusing for firefighters, paramedics, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
Is there equitable opportunity to bring egress down off of day?
Wouldn't appear so.
Because it's the same issue, correct? 25
Yeah,
feet, because
that would almost be worse because then you'd have house, house, house instead of from Bittersweet, house, house.
right. I think both ways aren't great, so, yeah.
Is there a reason why they're not doing one driveway?
There is one shared access proposed from Bittersweet. It's my understanding. Well, excuse me.
That's correct.
We consulted the engineer and the county engineer, and it would be one, he would require one shared access serving both lots.
What you're seeing is the lot line between the 2.
Okay. Would that be through an access easement?
It's part of the subdivision process.
Okay.
Correct.
That's all I got, at least for that they can answer.
Anybody else? All right, is the petitioner present? Name and address, and you got 10 minutes.
Nathan Flickner, Whiteman, 1402 East Mishawaka Avenue. Yeah, we're looking for a variance from 100 foot of frontage to 25 foot of frontage to get this property developed. Can't add too much more than what Sean has already mentioned. We are just limited access, trying to get quite a bit of acreage developed in that area for residential use.
Can you confirm whether the new addresses would be Bittersweet addresses or Day Road addresses?
I can't confirm at this point, but I would only assume it'd be Bittersweet because that's the road it's going to come off of.
Are the Feenies looking to actually sell these?
Yes,
So they'll be available to anybody before built?
I believe so.
So in other words, if the neighbors come yelling, they can buy the property instead of letting them build on the property?
Correct.
Anybody else? Quickest one of the day. Thank you.
Sure, we're not done yet.
All right, is there anybody who would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward. See none. Any on Zoom? Is there anybody who would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward. I need your name and address, and then you have 5 minutes.
I'm Peggy Miller. I live at 12541 Day Road in Mishawaka, Indiana, 46545. And I don't know as I'm so much against it as that I do have a few questions regarding it. And it's kind of what you say. What is the eventual use for that? There's more vacant property there than what the Feenies hold. You know, is a subdivision coming my way? I live right across the road, and you're talking about the access to Day Road. It's almost directly across from my driveway. And so I am concerned about that. I only got this diagram late last night to see that the access for these 2 parcels was going to be on Bittersweet Road. At least that's the way I'm reading the diagram. So I guess my question is, what is the land development plan in the future for that field that's across there? The Feenies only own, you know, that portion that you're seeing, but there's a larger field, and has it been platted out, you know, and someone's going to develop it in the future. And I also have an issue about we only just got notification of this thing maybe 10 days ago, and we were not aware of this at all. So I guess my question is, what is the standard notification for people who are abutting the property or will be affected by it? So, thank you. Did you want to say something? We also are concerned about potential traffic if a subdivision goes in there in the future, you know, has a traffic. When was the last traffic study out there? I don't know if you're familiar with this intersection, Day and Bittersweet, but it's very busy every day. So, those are my concerns. Do you want to say something?
I'm Dennis Miller. I've lived there 45 years, 12541 Day Road. Peggy's my wife. I do have some questions for you gentlemen. You know, we'd like to know, you know, what the economic development plan is for that area. I've flown over it here just the other day, you know, so I've got more than a small look at that. There's a large area to the south of that that's able to be developed, and also a large area towards the woods and the curve down there that can also be developed. You know, my question to you is, you know, how's this community being configured? You know, where's the platting for future houses in any adjacent fields? This has all been a complete surprise to us. This was mailed out on the 29th of December. I never received it in the mail until the 3rd. Quite frankly, I don't really like representing myself, but my attorney is in Florida. So you're going to have to put up with me. You know, getting back to a traffic study, you know, has it been completed, including the pattern and actual counts of cars? The last one that was done was approximately 25 years ago, and there was over 54,000 cars in front of my house every day on Day Road, and that was the state. I know that because I went out and asked the guy. Like I say, I'm not somebody who just moved there or anything like that. I've been there since May of 1979 at 12541 Day Road, which is exactly opposite of this. Where they have been utilizing to get to these back lots so far, you think that it's Bittersweet. Well, it's not. I went down and I talked to the woman down there, and she threw people off of it for trespassing. Where they're coming in at is at 12540 Day Road between two telephone poles and next to Phil Klein's house, who had his property surveyed and had them removed from that. This is not something I take lightly. You know, if you're going to put that in there, is there going to be any more development? Will there be a traffic signal for the road exiting this neighborhood or not? Because I'll tell you, if there's 54,000 people going through there every day on Day Road, they're going up Bittersweet too. There was supposed to be at one time a traffic circle at Day and Bittersweet. There'd been a study on it. They replaced it by a stoplight. Then there was supposed to be a traffic circle because of the continued congestion on Douglas and Bittersweet Road. That was not done because there was a bicentennial farm there. Eventually, where the traffic circle was installed, that was Cleveland and Bittersweet, which has been very successful. I want to thank you guys for that. You know, I'd like, copies of any other statements made by other abutters to this project. And I want to know who was notified, when they were notified, and what are the remonstrances out there. I got in my truck the other night and drove up and down the road and printed 25 of these up and stuck them in everybody's mailbox or talked to them personally up and down Day Road and up and down Bittersweet. Almost 100% of everyone that I talked to was against this. 100%. That's their business of not showing up today. I don't know, and I don't know if there's anybody that will be speaking beyond me. But I did my part, and I want to know why other people in that neighborhood weren't did this. It states right in your letter originally here, for many reasons, some of the property owners within the area of the subject property will not receive a copy of this notice. I have a problem with that. It affects all of us. You know, I'd like this, quite frankly, I'd like the approval of this petition, you know, table until the next meeting of the planning board so you can work on some of these other issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward.
Yes, my name is Brett Parks, 55110 Bittersweet Road. I can attest to Mr. Klein's claims. Notice was not given. I believe I might have received one of his printed off copies of the notice. And I do oppose this. Like you said, there's more adjacent land near surrounding this. It could expand further. And when you give an inch, a mile is usually taken. So I just want to say I do oppose this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward. See none. Any on Zoom?
Go ahead, Tim.
Shelley, I can't see the.
Hi, my name's Tim McNeely, and I live at 12388 Day Road, and I've lived there since 2004. I too am opposed to this variance. I am most concerned about the entrance and exit on Bittersweet Road as it relates to a curve in the roadway there, as well as school traffic from Penn High School. That's pretty precarious as to where that's located. I know that there's also a road that's plotted off of Day Road, and I find that very close to the stoplight, which then in turn causes the same issues for people coming and going from Penn High School, as well as the day in and day out traffic. I'm requesting that you don't allow this variance. I'm close to the property there that's going to be developed. I have property that abuts to it. It doesn't have a direct effect on my life, but it does have a direct effect on what happens in the neighborhood there and the people that surround me. I know the water table there is very high. More septic systems are going to taint that water system. And I also know that there is city water that's delivered to Day Road there, but the taxing of the system there and the cost of the people that have already lived there for many years, I find that to be quite troubling as well. And I'll end with just saying that I hope that the board does vote against it.
Thanks, Tim. Anybody else on Zoom? See none, public portion is now closed. You get a 5-minute rebuttal to anything that, or to everything that was said.
Nathan Blickner with Whiteman again. I just want to point out that this is for 2 additional houses. It's not
Major, speak
into the microphone.
Oh, sorry. I'd like to point out that this is for 2 additional houses or residents in a residential area. It's not a major subdivision with thoroughfare roadways to be like impacting on traffic. I mean, this is a one time out the driveway in the morning and one time in, maybe take the kids to school in between, but it's not like there's going to be cars lined up at this person's driveway waiting to get out onto Bittersweet. It's just a single family residence for each of those. I have no idea what's happening in the field to the south, if there's any development plans or not, or any kind of plans with you guys. I have no idea what on that property, but on the yellow highlighted area, where just the plan is to develop 2 residential houses. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do you need to note that there was a written remonstrance as well, too?
Yeah, I did mean to bring your attention to that. We do have one letter in remonstrance from Gil and Judy Jacobson, who would like to state that they oppose the variance being requested.
Thanks, Bob. Abby, you got anything you want to address?
Yeah, I was just going to speak to the notice since that was brought up a couple times. Per state code and our rules of procedure, we provide written notice via mail no less than 10 days prior to all property owners within 660 feet to the address on file. The address that they would include for like their property taxes. And publication in the Mishawaka Enterprise 12 days prior to the meeting, as required per state code.
Okay, thank you.
Just as an additional note to that, the 660 feet is your standard that you set. The state says that you determine by rule what interested persons is defined as. The BZA as a board, when it adopted its rules of procedure, determined that 660 feet was the appropriate definition for interested persons to receive the individual notices.
And then this is all just not to influence, just to clarify. The legal notice that staff wrote was a lot width of 25 feet where 100 is required for lots 2 and 3 of a proposed 3-lot subdivision. So what was advertised and what, if approved, it would be for that. They couldn't come back and try to squeeze in another lot. It's what is advertised is what was shown.
Yeah, but if it's gonna be a shared driveway, I mean, couldn't they change it?
There's only 50 feet of lot width to work with. They'd have to get an additional variance if they were trying to put a third lot in.
Sean, in the staff analysis, you talk about there was originally a proposed subdivision. Did that include, and I realize it was never approved or recorded, but did that include these 2 parcels?
It did not. It was completely different. It did have, so that the narrow strip that goes out to Bittersweet, that was gonna be a proposed street in that subdivision. So that's kind of where that comes into play.
Right.
We did consult the county engineer in the event that he would require dedication of right-of-way as opposed to a private drive, and his response was no, that access should be provided via a private drive.
Okay.
Just a point of, excuse me, clarification to Joe's point about a house behind other homes. Would the fire department have to intercede in this to, if they wanted to get a building permit, say that this is a safety or concern here?
Well, they would review the subdivision, so that's something that they could raise to our attention at that time.
They would have some input then. Thank you.
And just to echo what Sean said earlier when questioned, it's not ideal. We have land that's zoned single family and acreage, which is why, and substantial acreage, which is why we're in this situation today, right?
On one of the aerials, it appears that the house that sits on Day Road, has that parcel already been split off?
It's already a separate
It's a
parcel,
separate
right?
parcel
Yeah.
right now.
The accessory building, I think, straddles the property line, but yeah, it is a separate parcel.
Okay. So whatever is proposed to go in here, the access is going to have to come off of Bittersweet.
That's correct.
In the event we didn't like a 2-lot subdivision, you're still gonna need a 50-foot lot width variance to get back to this parcel to build a house.
Correct. That's correct.
And I'm not trying to oversimplify things, but does it basically come down to the fact that we're talking 1 or 2 homes?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you ready for a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I can't wait.
So,
Mr. Chairman.
while I'm,
There's no more public comment, sorry.
Thank you.
While I'm a proponent of a more robust tax base because I operate under the delusion that if there's more taxpayers, mine will go down, that is not really where I'm going to come at on this parcel. While this is a zoned residential lot and there is buildable territory there, I feel the two, Tom's point, one house, that's, they could do that tomorrow if they wanted to, right? That's acceptable, except for maybe there's a small variance for the 50-foot of frontage. I am not a proponent of putting houses behind houses in this case as well, too. I think it's a safety factor issue when it comes to simply trying to, even you trying to find that house if you're driving down Bittersweet is going to be troublesome because of it's buried behind somebody else. You're going to try and look for a little mailbox when I know traffic down Bittersweet's traveling at 50 to 70 miles an hour, and there's multitudes of thousands of cars going down that. It's a very tumultuous place, plus the curves. I would make a motion to deny the variance as requested.
And just so you're entirely clear, if you want to allow the possibility for one house, then it would be an amended variance to 50 feet. Just throwing that out there.
They'd have to do that later then.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is just a straight up denial.
Yep.
Okay. Just making sure.
Donnie Ritzma, I will second, and I'll also add that I feel like it also then jeopardizes the general welfare of the community as expressed here present, as well as the letter, but of my also professional opinion, I just feel like this also just jeopardizes the character of the area as it is.
Mr. Schaefer?
No.
Mr. Byers?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Bellman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, denies your variance and will issue written findings of the facts. We gotta take a quick break for Bob. I don't know if he can leave.
I'm not.
If you want to call recess, you can as the
Recess.
chair, and how long are we taking?
We're gonna take a 5-minute recess, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think I will take the opportunity.
What's in it?
Okay, thanks.
No, I couldn't stop laughing. I don't know if you saw me, but Bob did at one point. I was like, and Donnie.
I walked in with him. I heard he was going to say that.
I couldn't stop laughing during Dan. So, and I thought you saw me, but I was like trying to cover my. When he was talking about Spinny Mountain, and then the concrete batch plant, and his conspiracy theory that that's what this.
They'll find out next month.
Recording stopped.
Carl's like me.
But we already won't have Donnie for that petition. Yeah, because Donnie's going to...
Donnie's gonna say he doesn't want it.
Well, he'll be here, but he just...
He's gonna, yeah.
Leave the room. It's hard. You and Joe... What's the last conversation? It should be over.
I'm sure WSBT is enjoying that they're going to have lots of people heading to the bathroom on their nightly news. They are set up right outside the door.
They're still out there?
Yeah, they're interviewing. He's like laying out some sort of, I don't know. They have a guy with the microphone out there, just like right outside the door. Like anybody who walks out the door is going to be on TV. Like, I hope you're enjoying our pee break, WSBT.
Randy, I have a question. We did last week we see, remember Lance's campground? Special use of variances.
Okay, sort of.
Do they need to be separate kinds of variances?
Yeah, I would say they would. Because the determinations are different.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that they should be.
Yeah, I don't even know how I would have done that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yep, just like straight at the door. It's really.
I wanted to check that out. They open.
Oh, there you go.
We have longer meetings here to talk. As you can tell, that's really important to me.
He works for that.
Are they, they're still?
They're still outside.
What's left to talk about?
Yes.
It's so hot in here. I can't, I'm sorry, I can't take it anymore.
Recording in progress.
Thank you for admitting that. I was like, I can't.
It's gotten warmer since. Yeah.
We're good to go.
Oh,
All right, we're good to go. Apparently, everybody got off. All right, you guys ready to get started here? Petition number 8.
Did they all just leave?
Yeah.
They did.
Everyone on Zoom left.
Okay.
So you-
I'm just saying we didn't kick them out.
True.
They left. Okay.
Like a son or daughter.
Petition number 8, location 66643 State Road 331 Highway. Requested action. Variance number 1 from section 154.167, sub O3B1 to allow for hardy board siding, LP smart siding, or equivalent as the primary building material where brick, stone, agricultural, precast concrete, or EIFS would be required. Variance number 2 from section 154.167, sub C1 to allow for a front yard building setback of 32 feet where 40 feet would be required for a porch over 30 inches above grade with a roof. Variance number 3 from section 154.167 sub D, 4 to allow for parking areas in a side yard abutting residential use where none would be allowed. And variance number 4 from section 154.335 sub B to not provide parking area screening between a side building line and a side lot line abutting a residential use where it would be required. Zoning B District, County.
Okay, good afternoon. This is Carl Brown Grimm, Area Plan Commission staff. So as you heard, this petition contains a series of variances to allow for the design of a proposed new bakery in downtown Wyatt. As I mentioned, the subject property is a vacant lot in Wyatt along State Road 331 or Bremen Highway, just north of Perry Avenue. The lot is relatively narrow, and the building to the south was built at a 0-foot setback, causing some issues with the design of the site. Additionally, even though this area is Zone B Business District, the property abutting to the north is a legal non-conforming residential use. This is Wyatt along Bremen Highway looking north and looking south. So the first variance is to allow for hardy board or LP smart siding instead of the typical brick or stone that would be required by the architectural standards of the B Business District. Because we have a few variances with this one, I'm just going to get straight into the criteria. For variance number 1, we do not find that it would be injurious to the public to allow for this alternative building material since the siding is durable and low maintenance. Additionally, it will not have an adverse impact on the surrounding use and value of the properties nearby. This analysis was provided by the petitioner that shows 75% of the surrounding buildings in Wyatt use the same siding. Therefore, the proposed building materials will be in harmony with the surrounding area. Finally, the strict application of the ordinance would require the petitioner to use either a more expensive building material that would be more difficult to install and maintain, and it would be out of character with the surrounding area, as you can see here. This is the site plan provided by the petitioner. So the second variance is for that front yard setback. The building itself doesn't encroach into the front yard setback. That's set 40 feet away from the right-of-way. However, they are proposing a covered porch to encroach about 32 feet away from the right-of-way. Staff finds that this variance will not be injurious to the public. As I said, it'll still be set back 32 feet from that Bremen Highway right-of-way and 62 feet from the center line of the road. Because of that distance, and then as well, it's not a solid building, it's a covered porch that's open, so it's unlikely to pose an injury threat to drivers. Also, again, it is in character to allow for a building structure closer than 40-foot front setback within the downtown area. The properties directly adjacent have a 10-foot and a 5-foot setback from that front yard, respectively. So this variance will not adversely affect the use and value of the surrounding area. Strict application of the terms of this chapter would force the building to be shifted back, and this would cause a dumpster area that's planned to encroach within the minimum rear yard, which is not permitted by the ordinance. And again, fully meeting that 40-foot front yard setback would be actually out of character with the area given the surrounding properties and be more aesthetically pleasing. Finally, variances 3 and 4 are related to the parking, as you can see on the north there, abutting the residential use. Again, to the north, we have a variance to allow for parking within the minimum side yard setback, abutting a residential use, and then to not provide screening for the parking that would typically be required, again, abutting a residential use. Approval of these variances will not be injurious to the community. All the impacts from these variances would be localized to that property to the north. The petitioner did mention they might be providing a privacy fence. I believe the petitioner today can confirm that, along the property line, as well as wheel stops that will prevent vehicles from encroaching onto that northern property line. The use and value of the surrounding area will not be affected by approval of these two variances. Of the few buildings in the area that do provide off-street parking, none of those parking areas meet either that side yard required setback or the required parking screening. Finally, we do have some practical difficulty when it comes to the application of the ordinance in this one. As I said before, the typical setback for the B business district is 5 feet on both sides. However, due to the construction of the building to the south, on the property line, building code requires that the wall be at least 10 feet away from that for fire safety reasons. So that's already taking 5 feet additional setback. And then again, that property to the north is a non-conforming residential use in the B business district, so that requires a 20-foot side yard setback from that use. And then the lot itself is only 75 feet wide. So when taken together, this leaves only 45 feet of buildable area within the ordinance for which the petitioner would need to fit the building, the parking areas, and the access drives all to the specifications of the ordinance, which would be difficult to do in this case. So staff does recommend approval of all 4 variances today, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Nothing? All right.
So far.
Address in 10 minutes.
Hi, my name is Velvet Canada. I'm the owner of Make Room Architecture and Design. Address is at 401 East Colfax Avenue, Suite 180, South Bend, Indiana, 46617. So pretty much, that sums it up. We're building a bakery. We have a few constraints. Building is next to us is on the property. The owner has done due diligence and talked to her neighbors, and the neighbors to the north would prefer to have a privacy fence put up so that headlights are not shining in to their backyard in that area. And she's very willing to comply to doing so. Other than that, we would just ask that you approve our variances, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
What would the hours be open for the bakery?
Terry? Early morning to noon to one-ish. Do you want to come up so you can?
We need her name and address also, please.
Hi, my name is Terry Bickle. I reside at 67101 Gumwood Road, Bremen, Indiana. So we were thinking this would probably be an early morning, maybe like 6-ish. We'd like to catch early morning traffic, and then most bakeries noon, 1 o'clock, 2 maybe.
Is this a new venture for you, or have you been in that type of business before?
So we have been making cheesecakes for a few years, and we have a trailer, and we go to different venues and areas. But when you do cheesecakes from your home, you have to have a commissary kitchen, which we do, but that requires then baking somewhere else. And when this lot came available, we just decided to go forth. We're from this area. Wyatt is our stomping grounds. We grew up there. And so we've always just wanted to do this. So yeah, it's a new venture, but I mean, we have been baking for a few years.
Well, I want to commend you on doing that. How many employees will you have there?
So my sister and I, she's with me here today. So far, it's the two of us. I mean, unless our kids want to come up and help.
What's your goal for opening this up?
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
Well, when do you hope to be in operation?
Well, we had hoped by the spring, but I don't think that was going to happen because most of our builders are farmers. So maybe by summer?
Of this year?
Yeah, hopefully.
Good for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys got anything else?
Just a quick question. I see there's a garage attached to the back of the shop with an office above there. Is the garage for like employee parking, or is there going to be a residence upstairs at some point or another?
If I go broke, I might have to live there, but I hope not. The garage is for our trailer that we take to the different venues.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Velvet.
Donnie, do you have something?
No.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we'll open this up to the public. Is there anybody who would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward. See none. There's nobody on Zoom. Is there anybody who would like to speak against this petition? See none, and again, nobody on Zoom. So public portion is now closed. You guys got any discussion, or I'll take a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would echo Mr. Holly's sentiment. I commend someone for starting a new business. Appreciate the efforts that everyone puts into that. That's a hard thing to do. And in a town like Wyatt, even more realistically. So, although the Beaver Brew's back open, I heard, so that should be good. I would make a motion to approve all variances as requested, subject to staff comments in their synopsis. I think this would be a great use for an empty lot in a little town.
Donnie Ritzma, second.
Mr. Byers?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Velman?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Only vote yes if you give me a invitation to your opening day. I'm joking. I vote yes.
Ooh, man, she had that microphone
Yes,
in
she
a
did.
heartbeat,
I knew
man.
she was going to say something. Based on the testimony presented here today, after careful consideration, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals will grant your variance and will issue written findings of the facts.
He only asked for an invitation. He didn't ask for anything
I only
free.
wanted an invitation.
Good luck.
Smarter than that.
I read your mind.
So you just knew better.
Petition number 9, address location 12670 State Road 23 Highway. Owner EINI LLC, requested action, special use, to allow a tattoo and body piercing establishment in the C Commercial District per section 154.477. Zoning C Commercial District, County.
Faryal Sharif, Area Plan Commission staff. This petition is for a special use to allow a tattoo establishment at this property off SR 23 or Adams Road in Granger. So the board will be making a recommendation to the county council. Staff is recommending a favorable recommendation. You may remember that we did special uses for tattoo shops for some other petitions not too long ago. Tattoo and body piercing establishments are listed as a controlled use in the ordinance. Controlled uses such as this one are only allowed outright in the industrial district, subject to a few development standards. So the special use is needed to allow for that specific controlled use on a commercially zoned lot. On site is a one-story retail building. The petitioners currently operate a beauty salon in the front suite of the building, the pink part. They would like to expand their services to include some kinds of tattooing and permanent makeup. The petitioners first went to the health department to pull the relevant permits to do tattoos. They were sent to area plans office to check that there was a special use. And upon discovering one did not exist, they submitted an application to pursue that. This is the front of the lot looking westward. Right next to this plaza is the Yesterday's Restaurant in Granger. Directly across the street is an auto repair shop. The lot shares an access drive with the lot to the east of them, which is also retail. This area is mostly commercial developments with commercial zoning. And this is actually the rear of the property. Just wanted to demonstrate that directly to the rear is industrial development. I believe this is bulk oil and petroleum storage. If this was located in an industrial district, the use would be allowed outright, as it would meet all other development standards for controlled uses. Here's the site plan. They're just in the suite. The smaller one with the darker black outline, there is no other proposed changes to the property beyond just the special use to let them expand their services to do tattoos. There are 4 state law criteria for special uses. I'll go through them. The first, impact of the proposed use. Tattoos are more common and widely accepted than in previous decades. Thus, the effect on community moral standards is limited. The business will obtain relevant permits from the county health department, which states they will pay special regard to necessary safety and health protocols to ensure a reduced impact on public comfort, convenience, and general welfare. For the impact on the adjacent neighborhood, approval will not create a new use that is significantly different from the commercial retail service uses in the area or even the previous uses on the property. I was able to find that previous to the current owners, there was a boutique shop at the property, and there's also a massage parlor there. That covers character of the district as well, the uses in line with surrounding commercial uses in the area. Finally, for the comprehensive plan, the proposed use is not in conflict with any of the comprehensive plan's recommendations. For these reasons, staff is recommending the petition be sent to the county council with a favorable recommendation.
Okay, you guys got anything?
I would just have a question request for the area plan on the comprehensive study of allowing the use of tattoo parlors outside of just an industrially zoned area.
Is it a controlled use in industrial?
No.
No, okay. Joe, I have the same thought, that change probably needs to happen. And admittedly, it is something we've talked about internally. Because, let me tell you, the 2 that you sent through sailed right through county council, no concerns. So I think the appetite is there.
I mean, if I'm being very open and honest, there's some hairstyles that may come out of the hair salon that are worse than some of the tattoos I've probably seen coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a comment, sorry.
No, it's well received, and it has been discussed by us internally.
Very good.
And it helps us when you ask us for these kind of things, because then we can go, when we make text amendments, we take it to the area plan, And then we take it to the county council and we can say, this is upon the request of our BZA, who has heard 3 of these in the last 6 months.
Well, I would not use me as a barometer for any type of impact of public comfort or moral standards personally, but that is my own opinion of where this would fall, so yes. If you use me as a moral compass, you might have a problem.
Good. Is the petitioner present? Name and address in 10 minutes, please.
Hi, my name is Rosa Magno. I live in 2320 Old US 31, Niles, Michigan, 49120.
Hi, Maribel Villafana. I live in 202 4th Street, Niles, Michigan, 49120.
I don't know where to start. We're both licensed cosmetologists. We've been licensed since 2018, and we recently got the chance to have our own salon. So we wanted to expand our services into fine line tattooing and permanent makeup. That's it. Yeah.
We will not be doing hair, by the way.
Yes.
Are you just leasing that portion of the building?
Yes, for now.
Thank you.
I have no questions.
I got nothing. You guys got anything? Nope. All right, that was easy.
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll open this up to the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward.
Nobody on Zoom. You're the only one.
None on Zoom. Against, anybody that would like to speak against this petition, please step forward. See none, none on Zoom, public portion is closed. Remember, it's a favorable, non-favorable, or abstain.
Here you go.
Correct?
That's your chance.
Or no recommendation, sorry.
Tom Byers, I make a motion to recommend to the county council a favorable special use approval based on the staff recommendation.
Bob Hawley, I'll second that.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Bellman?
Yes.
Mr. Byers?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes, based on testimony presented here today, after the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, will send a favorable recommendation to the county council, and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you. You've had a long day, man.
Petition number 10, location 69400 Pine Road, owner Gregory and Megan Colvin. Requested action, variance from section 154.092 sub D to allow for a side yard north setback of 16 feet where 30 feet is required for an accessory building. Zoning A agricultural district, county.
All right, this is Carl Brown Grimm, Area Plan Commission staff. This property is located north of the intersection of Pine and Stanton Road and is zoned A agricultural. Petitioner is looking to legalize an existing shed that was red tagged by the building department in early of November of 2023. The shed, you can see it here. It sits 16 feet from the that north property line where 30 is typically required in the A agricultural district. Unfortunately, due to the angle of this picture, it's hard to tell, but the primary house is legal nonconforming and sits even closer, approximately 13 feet from the property line. Here's the shed in question. The rest of the property, looking south, it is important to note that this property is just under 5 acres, which is larger than the 2-acre ag parcel exemption that we recently passed that allows residential structures such as this to have that 8-foot setback. This is, again, that northern property line, and there's the legal nonconforming house that has been in existence prior to 1900 per the property record card, and it does show up on historic aerials in 1926. The surrounding area could be considered rural residential. This is Pine Road looking south and looking north. The property is directly across from a large church property. Here is the site plan showing that the relatively large subject property. the shed in question is at the rear there. You can again see the house setback, as well as the septic system between the two there. So turning to our state law criteria, staff finds that approval will not be injurious to the public. As I mentioned, the house has existed for over 100 years without complaint. Allowing for a shed that is further away from the property line should not be any more injurious to the neighbor to the north. The use and value of the surrounding area will also not be affected by the approval of the variance today. Sheds such as this are common for the rural residential character of the surrounding area. Additionally, given the residential nature of the shed, meeting double the required residential setback should ensure the use and value of the property to the north remains unchanged. However, staff is not able to find practical difficulty in this case. The petitioner has over 4 acres in area with plenty of open space on the property. The site plan submitted shows a modestly sized septic system. Given the width of the property, the petitioner has over 440 feet of buildable width for which to fit the structure, even with those enhanced 30-foot setbacks because of the agricultural district. So staff does not see the practical difficulty in this case, and as such, we do recommend denial. I would answer any questions you might have at this point.
Do you know when that building was built?
Which building, the shed or the house?
The shed?
It was built recently. Again, the building department red tagged in 2023. November of 23.
Anybody got anything? Nope. All right. Take your name and address, please, and you got 10 minutes if you got anything to add.
Gregory Colvin, 69400 Pine Road, North Liberty 46554. The shed was built just this summer. Built the thing. My fault. I pull permits all the time. If the shed was under 200 square feet, I did not need a permit. The shed is 300 square feet. So therefore, I do need a permit, so I did not know that. The second I got the red tag, I did go down and talk to them. Then I did not realize I was zoned agricultural because in town, I know we got setbacks of 8 foot and 12 foot. And so I did set it on that side of the property because there is nothing really. That's where all my access is for my primary residence. And I got an outbuilding right there that's on my driveway, so this is straight out back of my house, unlike setting it out in the middle of a pasture that's by itself. I do have adequate space other than that, but everything is kind of accumulated there in the northwest corner of my property.
You didn't have a survey or anything like that prior to construction?
I have had a survey. I didn't have it prior to construction.
What was the reasoning for putting the shed where you did?
So just for convenience more for me, just straight back, it's not out in the middle of my yard. I mean, like I said, it was my fault. The fence is existing. That's the neighbor's fence, which is built right exactly on the property line. I know there was no permits needed back in the day to have that fence put in. So when I set it 16 foot off, I was thinking that was fine. I did not go further in. I got large trees, as you can see back there, where I will get into the roots of them and all that if I do move forwards. My septic tank is, if I would move off those roots to the west and then move out to the south, I will be impeding on my septic system, and I wanted to stay away from it too.
Is the structure sitting on a concrete?
It's setting on corner pillars with slides. It's not a permanent structure.
Anything else? No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll open this up to the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward. Seeing none, and none on Zoom. Is there anybody that would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward. Seeing none, and none on Zoom. Public portion's now closed.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to discuss something really quick about staff's comments. So they did not find injurious health, safety, which I would agree with that. Use and value of the area would not be affected in an adverse manner. Strict application, while there is substantial other acreage available to be able to put this structure, I personally would have probably chose the same area because of looking at the lot underneath the trees, the area where it's at, proximity to the house. If you put it out in the middle of the field, it's kind of really tough to get to and not at, it's not a convenient aspect, which I would think most of these sheds would be. Having a pool, I'm making some assumptions that the petitioner may keep some pool things in there, so it's by the pool. So while it's not necessarily a practical difficulty, it does make it more difficult to put it someplace else on the lot, in my opinion. And seeing that the existing structure has been there since long before even Mr. Holly was around, I would suggest that it's not a problem to do that. So I would make a motion to approve the variance as requested. Now, in this case, I'm not going to say subject to the staff's recommendations because I'm going against it.
Donnie Ritzmel, second.
Mr. Byers?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Feldman?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, grants your variance and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you.
Thanks for your patience.
Oh, not a problem.
And Joe, I appreciate your justification in practical difficulty. Really do.
It gives her the ability to defend me. That's all I ask for.
All right.
Findings of facts.
I know.
Donnie, did you catch anything?
This time I did not.
I can't vote on this, right?
Bob Hawley, I'll make a motion that we accept the findings of the facts for the meeting of Wednesday, December the 13th, 2023.
Donnie Ritzmel, second.
All right, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Sid Schaefer, I second it.
All right, motion is
Do
second
you have something?
to.
Oh, I was just gonna let you know that Kurt Concrete, the request for the special use that you all heard and put forward ended up, or went through council committee and then was ultimately withdrawn. A new petition for a different a petition for a different location has been filed for February.
That's that temporary plant.
Let me guess on that, sorry, we haven't adjourned yet.
All right, there was a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Wasn't that parcel?
Is how Dan.
No,
Oh.
no, that's,
Not at all.
that's, here, let's end the Zoom, all right.
More residential.